Okay, we'll go ahead and get started. Everyone but Patrick that matters was here for the last one, so basically,
I was there.
were you there?
Yep.
Okay, good to know. Okay, so
No, he
no,
wasn't.
no explanation needed then. Let's get started. Opening statements. Patrick, you can go first.
Thank you, Nick. Good evening, League. I'm running for the candidate to be your next LM. You may know me originally as a councilman. You may know me as a two-time attorney general. You may know me as a perennial playoff contender, as the leader of Survivor, as the creator of The Reporter, and next you will know me as the greatest LM of all time. Thank you.
Boo!
All right, Adam.
Um, Hello, everybody. Thank you for coming. I'm running for LM this year. I've been on the council for the last two sessions. Personally, I have a couple main things that I want to run on. I want to run on first, weeding out all this corruption and tomfoolery we have. You know, these other two candidates, I think we can all agree, are quite guilty of all of that. I want to make this a fair league. I want to make this a fun league. And secondly, I want to run on that fairness, funness, and competitiveness.
All right, bring us home, Matt.
All right, first, I just want to thank everyone for coming out. I'm excited that I've got some opposition this year. It should make for a fun race, and truly, the league's not going to go wrong with any candidate that they may choose to vote in. I do question my fellow candidates' ability to display the passion and the organization required to run this position of LM. You see, I think there's some confusion when it comes to LM. It's a position of responsibility, not a position of power. Truly, you are the league organizer. You're not the league king. You have to be able to interact with all 16 members and, you know, comfort them when they need trouble, help them when they need it. And I think everyone here knows that I am able to do that well. And I think the other two candidates would make great council additions, but I don't think they really know what it takes to be LM, especially when we're starting a whole new, basically, league over in this new phase of 9Cat. I think my experience will definitely guide us and help solve any issues that may arise. Thanks.
All right, so we'll get into the questions. Some of them will be pretty similar to the ones from the AG debate. I'm also using a random list to decide the order, so I'm sorry if it's unfair to somebody, but feel free to jump in if someone's answering and debate them if you'd like. But anyway, we'll get started with the kind of hit on that in the opening statements. But all of you have held some sort of office at one point or another. How do you think that knowledge and experience will help you better the league if voted in? And it is Patrick first once again.
Thank you. So, as Attorney General in particular, I had a lot of times to do deep dive studies into our league rules and constitution and what the rules actually are. And I think there's no one else in this league probably who knows the rules and knows the intricacies of the rules as well as I do. And that's important as an LM. You know, we can't have an LM who's just decides what they want to do and do it. And sometimes we see that, and it's unfortunate. We need an LM who's consistent, reliable, and going to play by the rules. And that's what my experience brings to the table.
All right, Matt.
Yeah, you kind of cut out for me. Could you repeat the question?
How will your experience in office over the years help you better the league this upcoming season?
Oh, yep. So the very first season that we ever played was a totally new experience. None of us had played fantasy basketball before, and I kind of helped take the reins and answer questions and did the research required. Over the years, I've spent many times either on the council or in LM throughout all 5 years. So as we're entering this new phase, I think it's more important than ever to make sure that we have leadership that knows how to handle this because people are going to have questions, people are going to have concerns. You have to be available. You have to always be willing to listen and answer. So I think that my experience is by far the most paramount, especially entering this new phase.
Okay, Adam.
Yeah, as a two-time council member, I've definitely seen the inner workings of the league. I've seen some of the issues we have with the structure, with how power and how responsibilities are distributed. And I think that going in as league manager next year, I would work to fix some of those problems.
All right. Kind of a follow-up question to that. Um, let's see. Someone asked, "Do you find yourself to be highly opinionated about things regarding the league?" And can you give an example of one of those times? If so, and yeah, just kind of explain what your opinion was and what you used your power for in office to you know help get your opinion through. Does that make sense? Okay, it
Yeah.
is Adam.
Yeah. So as a member of the council last year, we've always had an issue in this league with trades and trades being vetoed. And I guess on the council, I've always been the most willing to allow trades to go through. Personally, I just think that we should allow each member to speak for themselves. Other than the most extreme cases, I think we've gotten far too hands-on with what we consider a vetoable trade, and it's kind of hurt our league. It's hurt the amount of moves that people can make throughout the season to better themselves. And so I'd say on the council, I was that person, and as league manager, I would be someone who was open to influencing or encouraging more trades, I should say.
All right, Patrick.
Well, you started saying, are you strongly opinionated? There's no doubt about that. I have the opinions and the passion for fantasy basketball. Every single issue that comes up, I'm always there to chime in on my side of it. I'm always active, stating my opinion on the matter. There was something that came up in this morning's debate, the AG debate, where a couple times Ben mentioned the move from ESPN Fantasy to Yahoo Fantasy, and he almost started to act like it wasn't the right idea. He kind of even said that in those words. And I think that really shows how out of touch him and his campaign is. And, this was a super majority vote. I was strongly opinionated and knew at the time we needed to go to Yahoo. And that particular incident really shows, having the right opinions and the strong opinions to move forward as LM.
Can I respond to that?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, I don't think necessarily that is exactly what Ben was trying to say. I think we take issue with making major changes in the middle of the season. Of course, yeah, there was a vote. I voted to move it, and I think that going forward though, as this league has evolved, we were more prepared to handle those issues preseason.
So are you saying you're not willing to make major changes in the middle of the season if it needs to happen? Or are you saying you're not willing to do that as LM?
I'm saying I'm only willing to make major changes in the middle of the season with league majority votes, significant supermajority votes, which that vote did have. But as long as we have a council, we should be able to make minor changes throughout the season and small changes. That should be the role of the council. But big changes, as far as I'm concerned, should be handled by league votes.
All right, Matt.
Yeah, so I think it's a pretty complex question, judging your opinion. I don't think the position of league manager is all about just stating your opinion and trying to make it go through. I think that league manager requires understanding that everyone's opinion matters and that you need to take that into account and create a solution or an amendment or some new thing that benefits everyone the most without like alienating anyone in it. And I think I've done that many times over and over through the years. I think I have a pretty good radar of when something needs to be a league vote versus when it needs to just be a council decision. I don't know that anyone can really point to a time when something should have been one way or the other. I'd say like my biggest influence or opinion that I had was the fact that we needed to create this structure that brings us to where we are today. I mean, after the whole Fliffler debacle and all that, that's when I sat down. I said, how can we fix this issue that's constantly coming up? Where we had an LM, we had co-LMs, we had a council, then we had an LM with a council. I was like, how can we incorporate everyone? So I used that opinion. I reached out to everyone individually. I don't think anyone here can say that I haven't reached out to them sometime in the past year, or vice versa. And I don't think my other candidates can say that. I'm not sure that Adam has ever talked to Sanders about fantasy, or Joel about fantasy, or Patrick has ever talked to Nathan about it. But I have reached out to everyone. I used that influence in order to get done what was best for the league over and over and over again.
All right. Just a side note, Josh, are you recording?
Hey, yeah, I am.
Okay, cool. All right. The next question is, with multiple candidates running, what do you believe is the most fair way to do the election? Like multiple rounds, or ranked voting, or ranked choice, etc. Keep in mind that this will set the precedent for future votes. It is Matt first.
Yeah, I had said when there was 4 people, I thought that we had discussions amongst the LMs, what we thought the LM candidates, what we thought would be the best, and we had all kind of agreed that doing this ranked voting would be best to try and find top 2 candidates. I know I've heard expressed concern from multiple people, or I guess Ben in particular, that he thought that could lead to shenanigans. But I think just all or nothing on ranked voting would make people more, I guess, desperate and panic and want to do a more strategic vote. But when everyone has a 50% chance to make it to a general election, if you will, I think people are more likely to just put what they think are the 2 best options. Let's let them fight it out in the general election. Clearly, we can't just do everyone vote for one person with 4 people, or else you'll have someone with 4 votes winning it, and 2 of those would be their own candidate. So I think we're all in agreement there. I think there's still some details to hash out, but Johnny dropping out may throw a wrench in things. But if there's 4 of us, I think a ranked choice primary is the way to go. Myself.
Patrick, do you agree?
Well, look, I think some of the candidates here are trying to get a voting system that favors them, that favors themselves, and that favors them winning LM. And they're going to cash that in the idea of justice, but they're just trying to get a voting system that will let them win. So, we need to, as candidates, agree all together on something. We can't have any one system override. Now, the suggestion I would have is certainly ranked choice. If we're going to have 3 candidates, ranked choice, but also we need a minimum number of firsts to win. We don't want someone who got all second place be the LM. So ranked choice plus minimum first, I think would be a fair compromise as long as other candidates would be on board.
I would agree with that as long as there are only 3 of us. I guess we need official word from Johnny, maybe in Slack, that he's out. But if it's down to 3, yeah, I think ranked choice with a minimum first would be fair.
Adam?
Yeah, so I guess it seems like we still have some hashing out to do on that. Johnny looking like he's dropping out, threw a wrench into, what we were thinking going into this. However, they're attacking my campaign, clearly attacking Den. So I would like to say that the system that we have proposed, that they say, that Patrick has said is meant to benefit me, is a system called ranked choice voting that's used in elections all over the country. And the purpose of it is just to get the most favorable candidate in. And the way that these 2 had wanted to do a 4-person election would ensure that we would have to do, first off, 2 separate elections, which would complicate things, and that we would have a system where a less favorable candidate can sneak in as long as they get more second place votes. They'll sneak into the primary and probably just get demolished. People use ranked choice voting system all over the country, and I think that we should use that instead of trying to reinvent the wheel. That's basically my thoughts on that.
Yeah, I was just asked a follow-up question to that. What do you all think about in future seasons? I suppose probably not this one, but an incumbency for the current LM, and then a primary for the challengers, and then from there it'd be a one-on-one debate. You all feel free to chime in. Whoever.
I I'm not in favor of that. I don't think the LM should be allowed a free pass if we're going to do a primary system straight to the general election. I think we
Yeah,
should have to fight for it.
I think I'm actually in agreement with Adam for once on that one. I don't think there's much reason to giving the incumbent an extra leg up just because they were LM before.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think checks and balance against anything that previous LM might have done to rub people the wrong way. I don't think we give them a free pass when it's only 16 people. But I would like to challenge Adam's assertion that this voting system is done all over the country. We're in a country where you can win the highest office with receiving the minimum number of votes over the other candidate. I'm not sure that this is exactly the shining beacon of voting the best candidate in, unfortunately.
It seems like you're not understanding what the voting system that I'm proposing. The voting system I'm proposing is not widely used. It's not the one that we use in this state, but certain states use it. Basically, everyone will rank their top 4 candidates, and the person who gets the least amount of first place votes will have their second place votes passed on to somebody until we reach a majority. It's a way to ensure that the most favorable candidate overall wins. Now, the way you all are proposing it, I feel like has some issues that would not be fully ironed out. I mean, I would like to hear more about this, but
There's just the ranked choice. You can have a candidate win without even getting the most number of first place votes.
I'm not completely opposed to since we have 3. I mean, I don't see any problem with a minimum amount of first place votes. But I didn't feel like that was the system you all were proposing before.
I could get on board with that.
All right, next question will be specifically for Patrick. Someone chimed in with, "How can we trust you to run our fantasy league when we can't even trust you to keep the reporter alive?"
Well, look, the reporter is it's a big project, and I've tried to recruit some help on that to have some teamwork on it, and people's schedules don't always line up. But what we do know is that the reporter is part of the heart and soul of the league. Even though it doesn't pan out to be perfect all the time, it's something that everyone remembers fondly and everyone wants more of. And I think that's what they're going to think of me as LM too.
All right, cool. Similarly for Matt, how can we trust you to run the league with honor given your history?
Yeah, that's a real easy one that I know people like to throw out there and confuse and use against me. Look, there's a difference between Matt the GM and Matt the LM. There just is. There has to be. I mean, it's not easy for you all to understand maybe necessarily that because I have bogarted the LM position for such a long time, but you have to be able to do both separately. Matt the GM has gotten in some shit, but Matt the LM, never have I abused my office. Never will I. And you can ensure that you can't point to one thing I've ever used the office of LM for evil. I even let the impeachment thing. I approve that. I think that's a great thing. The council impeached, and it was their decision. And I thought, we do need something like this in place. I've only ever done what I think is best and right for the league as LM.
Yeah, I don't think we can just skirt on by that. Like it was all nothing. 9 members, if I remember correctly, voted to impeach you. A majority of the league voted to have you removed from office because of the collusion that you participated in. Patrick, on the other hand, is no different. You all collaborated in the same exact scheme, intentionally colluding. And further, I think that you attempting to brush it off as GM Matt versus LM Matt is just a little bit ridiculous. I mean, you're the same person. You know what you're doing. I have as a GM personally, I don't think I have any issues under my belt. I've never done anything like that. So I think it's not something that you should just be allowed to skirt by on. I mean, this happened just a few months ago.
Yeah, it did, and I do remember that those 9 votes that you talked about were done so with multiple promises of how are we going to get power after all this and who's going to be in charge. I think you were one of the leading members trying to wrangle in
You,
people to prop yourself to LM after that, if I recall.
I'm
Those
not
were
familiar with any of this.
I had any
I did
insight
not do
there.
any reaching out to tell people that they'd get votes or whatever. All I did was, as a member of the council, help push forward the impeachment process.
And Adam, I mean, I don't like you bringing me into this as well. Whatever Matt's problems were, Matt's problems. And if you want to talk about history, you know, the league remembers fondly of your time during Survivor when you would go demon mode at him over and over. Can we trust someone with that temperament, with their hands on the nuclear weapons of this league, with their hands on the LM controls, to have that temperament and come out as demon time Adam? You know, if we want to talk about history, that's certainly not appropriate, not someone that I can trust as LM.
I certainly do have a passion for the game. Can't deny that.
All right. We will move on. As LM, you can't expect everyone to participate in the league at the same level, like discussions and whatnot. However, as the LM, you kind of are like the example to set. How will you ensure that every league member stays engaged and participates in stuff like the bare minimum, like setting your lineup every week? Adam, we'll start with you.
Yeah, I think this is the issue. I mean, we've always had people not setting their lineups, and that's prime number one thing. You know, we don't need every single person. We have 16 people in this league now. We don't need every single person to be at the same top level of responding to everything and sending everything out. But yeah, I would certainly reach out to people who are not really meeting any of those standards, if you'd say so, and encourage them to join in.
Matt?
Yeah, this is an easy one. I've been doing it for years and years and years. I don't think either person sitting next to me realizes what it takes and how it feels to have to bug someone over and over again to set their lineup. Most of the time, to no response. I don't think either of them would have the guts to continue to do it. You know, I take on the responsibility of being like, I don't care if I'm gonna annoy them. I don't care, you know, if they're gonna hate me for this or be annoyed. You know, I have to do this for the sanctity of the league. I've been doing it. I know multiple people in here who know that I text and be like, "Hey, I'll try to approach it in a good way. Like, you know, you have a chance of winning this week. You got to do this. You got to do this." And I think that goes back to truly this is a position of responsibility, not a position of power that people may think it is. Like, the council is where the power is, and I would ask each of my 2 opponents that have made it here today, is this truly what you want to do? Do you want to be the person who has to all day continually text people, check the app, check other people's lineups, keep up with what they're doing, ask if everything's okay, do that, or do you just want decision-making power, because that's where you belong on the council? So I just want each of you to really think about that as we finish out the debate.
Can I respond to that? I don't really think that's something super special you can hang your hat on. I mean, it's not going to be too hard. Should I get elected, to reach out to people and send them texts, remind them to set their lineups. I mean, during the season, I'm on the fantasy app quite a lot, so I'd notice if people were not setting their lineups.
Have you ever had an experience with 5 or 6 different people that are messaging you like about trades being denied? How would you handle that? And we've seen your temperament in the past when it comes to your own trades. Would you be able to handle 5 or 6 people blasting you for trade decisions you made, or trying to negotiate and get with something for you out of you?
I mean, I don't see why not. Look, I have a reputation of wanting trades to go through, and I'll keep doing that. And you know, when people get upset with decisions that the league manager makes, you know, that's something that I guess you have done a good job in, and is keeping it professional, keeping it, you know, related to that. And I think that in that position, I would have no problem with that, with keeping it to hearing all these input, hearing everyone's voices, and responding to them.
And I would like to answer this too. You know, I would take more actually of a hands-off approach directly, unlike Matt. You know, I don't think it's necessarily the LM's job to text people directly, set their lineups. I have other people for that. I think the AG can do that. I think the council members can get on that and codify it into law to make that happen. I think the LM's job is more to make sure that the passion and the heart and soul of the league stays live and burning all year long. In those deep days of January random games, you got to keep the league hot, keep things coming, keep content flowing. That's why I would introduce an exciting side game. Specifically, it would be a gambling side game. People would be able to bet on daily fantasy actions, and bet on fantasy games and bet on individual players all year long as part of a intense side gambling game to keep the passion alive. That's what you're going to get out of me as being the LM, and what my history shows is that you're going to have a creator in chief who's going to keep the passion alive, burning all even in the dark days of January.
Yeah, I'd like to respond just to Patrick stating that he doesn't think it's on the LM to be texting people and getting them involved and whatnot, but then also stating it's on the LM to get the passion up. And I think he might have missed my point earlier when I said when you're trying to get people to set your lineups, I don't do so by just saying, "Hey, set your lineup." I'll say, "Hey, you've got a real chance of winning this week. If you win this week, it looks like you can win down the road. You have this, this, and this. You might make playoffs, and you could go on a big run. You've got good players. You got to stay on. You got to stay smart moves." And I think that's on the ground level exactly what I'm doing is creating passion, trying to create a little fire under somebody that I don't think either of my two opponents have any experience with.
Yeah, and I understand you trying to bring that competitive aspect in to
Right.
bring the passion, and I bring that too. But I also bring the constant stream of content really to the league of various sorts to keep everyone engaged all throughout the year.
Yeah, and I could just one more to add on to what I was saying as being Matt the GM versus Matt the LM. How is it not a separate duty when I'm trying to get people to compete and participate? Why would me as a GM want that when when it benefits me to have people playing worse, but as LM it's my responsibility to make sure everybody is active and going. So it's totally counterintuitive to a GM's thought process where you all would probably sit back and love for someone to not set their lineup, when you're playing. And I'm not saying you would do that as an LM. I'm sure you all would also, take the burden of responsibility to keep people involved, even if it means you might lose a week. I'm sure you all.
I mean, I've never told somebody to try and lose to benefit somebody else, to benefit myself.
Can't say the same.
Right?
Okay, we have a few follow-ups to that discussion. The first one, all anonymous. First one is, what is your definition of the bare minimum participation in this league? Whoever wants to go first.
Yeah, I think we always are going to have some of those people, and I think as long as we limit it to we only have a few people who aren't heavily participating, who aren't really trying to make trades, and as long as they set their lineups and occasionally are making waiver pickups, I think that they're okay. We don't need every single person in this league to be going all in. I mean, if everybody wants to, I'm all for it, but it
Yeah,
shouldn't be this.
I think we at least need people to set their lineups, pay attention to Slack, and hopefully participate at least a little bit, and show up to the end of your party or make your best effort too. That's the bare minimum.
Yeah, I would define bare minimum as setting your lineups, paying attention to Slack, just kind of generally keeping an interest in the league. Doing your surveys on time when those come out. That's basically it. We don't need everybody to, be flaming people in chat constantly, but it would be nice to see people like on the waiver wire trying their very best to the very end, no matter how their team is looking or shaping up to be.
All right, another follow-up question for Matt. Matt mentioned that he texts people to set their lineup only if they have a chance of winning. Should setting lineups be the expectation regardless of weekly chance of winning?
I did not say that it was only when they have a chance of winning. I said I will tell them you have a chance of winning this week because you always have a chance early in the week or later in the week. As long as you set your lineup, you never know what could happen. If they're going to not set their lineup, then they're losing. So, and I'm not a soothsayer. I can't predict the future. I definitely did not say only when they have a chance of winning. I tell everybody set your lineups, and I try to, like I said, I try to light a fire in their ass by giving them a chance to feel like you have a chance of winning this week. You should try.
All right, one last one. There are proposed side games being mentioned. Should these be limited to the LM, or would you still want to run these sort of games if you are not elected LM? Once again, anyone
Guess
can answer if they'd like.
Yeah, I guess that probably goes to me. If I was going to be LM, I'd be putting a lot more time and effort into the side game. This would be my baby. And if people put the faith in me, I'm going to put the faith and the time in them too. So, I'll help in anything when I'm not LM. But if I'm LM, you're going to get the most out of me, and you're going to get the best side game. Really, even better than Survivor is what I'm expecting.
All right, anyone else for that one?
That shouldn't be a hard bar to clear.
Yeah, I think my past shows that even when I am not LM or in a position of power, say like when Cliffler took over, I was still very much I just couldn't help myself. I still had to take the league and try to help create things, create content, create games. I just can't help myself. So even if I'm not given the chance to be your LM again, and I were to run for council, say afterward, or not make that, I would definitely still open my arms up and say, let me know what you need me to do, and I will do it.
Alrighty, we have a couple questions from Joel. You don't have to answer this first one, I guess, if you don't want to, but the questions are you all vaccinated? And the follow-up is, depending if you've brushed your teeth today, can you kiss my baby?
Yes and yes.
Yes and yes.
Yes, and probably.
All right, that's easy enough. Joel, I hope that satisfied your curiosity. Okay, starting with Patrick, were you for league expansion? Why or why not?
I was for league expansion. I think it's good for the league to keep expanding over time. And I see this league maybe 5-10 years from now being larger and having actually a second sort of feeder league, like a AAA team underneath the majors. And so I do think it's good to keep expanding slowly year after year. And I'm glad with what we did.
Yes, I was for league expansion. In fact, I'm the only person up here, I think, that did not have a problem with either candidate. If I recall from conversations with my fellow candidates, I thought both candidates provided a lot of passion. Both had been waiting a long time to come in, and I wanted to see both come in and grow to 16. I do believe there was Adam altogether was pretty against expansion, if I recall in chat, and I think Patrick was for it, but maybe thought maybe some other candidates should have a chance at getting in.
I think we really didn't push the candidate period as far as we could have, with more people being nominated and being interviewed. Now, I'm certainly happy with both individuals we ended up with. I think it's good for the league. But next time I think we need to just expand the interview process a bit.
I would agree. I wish, I had said, people, this is on you to get more candidates in. I had a couple people message me separately saying, "Oh, maybe I'm thinking about putting this guy in," and I said, "Okay, that's great. Just get them set up." And there was no movements or momentum made to do so. So I think we got the two best candidates, the ones that people were actually willing to take 5 minutes out of their day to.
So you didn't follow up and text them and say, please set your lineup. You have a chance of winning this week or anything like that. You just let it die, let it drop.
No, I sent out messages multiple times in Slack. Said, "Hey, get your candidates in." You all saw that if you're in Slack, and I know you are. So yeah, I sent out multiple times. It was enough for people, especially in off season, to if they really felt strongly about a candidate, I knew they would do it. Nick, right off the bat, next morning, Michael was in. Johnny set up Elijah. Case was out of town, so Johnny took the reins and did it. Other names were thrown out. Nothing was made. So I think we got the two best people.
Yeah, I was against expansion in this league. I did vote no, and you know, I've watched the video of their interviews, and I think we did get two good candidates, and I think they'll be very good for this league. However, I disagree with Patrick's idea of continuing to expand the league further and further and further. I think we're getting pretty close to maximum capacity here in this league. That's just my personal opinion. I don't know exactly what that maximum capacity is. We'll see how this year goes with 16 people. But I don't know how much further I'd be willing to go.
Adam, what you think about the video? The other day you said you didn't have any time to watch that long of a video.
Yeah, I went back and watched it. I was in finals week during the week that video was released, and yeah, I was during finals week, and I got a chance to watch it the week after.
Okay, great. Yeah, Clifford, my AG candidate, put a lot of effort into that, so I was hoping people would take 23 minutes out of the day to at least listen to it. But there's some good little video things on it.
Shout out Clifford. All right. Which other? Well, it's down to three of you. But which LM would you vote for other than yourself, and why? And this one, we'll throw it over to Patrick first.
Sure. So I think, really we do have all good candidates around them and people with great experience behind them. But if I had to vote for someone else, I would pick the one who has the best legacy for the league and brought the league to where it is today, which is Matt. He's not perfect by any means, but as far as a safe choice, he is a decent safe choice.
Yeah, I do agree with Patrick that Matt would be the safe choice, and I guess he would be my pick if I was unable to run. But yeah, it's not a glowing endorsement.
Hey, Matt.
Yeah, and I will agree with both candidates that I am the choice.
Yeah, he should be banned for saying that.
I really wish that Clifford didn't want to kind of take a step back to get more people in, because I would have loved to see him up here running and as a
I'm not
potential
accepting
backup.
that answer either.
But
Pick one of us.
if I had to pick, I would have to say Patrick, just because he has the legislative and judicial experience. So I think he is the best fit to be able to meld both worlds in the executive.
Thank you, Matt.
Okay, a question specifically for Patrick that just came in. In the AG debate, one of the candidates actually called you a clown. Would you care to respond?
A clown is always a good time to have around. Yeah, it's going to be fun with me as LM. There's no doubt about that. But I also take my job very seriously. And I always obey the rules, follow the rules. I bring some fun to the table when I was AG, putting those ridiculous documents out there, the charging documents that were just kind of, for the most part, comedy, but also real. And that's how I'm going to be as LM. It's going to be a tongue-in-cheek LM.
All right. Just a couple more questions, and we'll kick it over to the audience and see if they have any, or if you all have any questions for each other. Was asked in the AG debate, who is your favorite player of all time, and who is the GOAT? We'll start with Matt.
Yeah, I think my answers most people probably know, because they joke about it a lot. But my favorite player of all time is Steve Nash, and my GOAT personally is, I would say, MJ.
All right, Adam.
My favorite player of all time has to be hands down Scott Pollard, NBA champion, and MJ's the GOAT.
Player.
Mm-hmm. Just watch that season again. But okay, Patrick.
Favorite player is certainly Kevin Durant. Everyone knows that. And I play just like him in basketball too. And the GOAT is certainly LeBron James. His longevity, 10 straight finals, it's incredible.
All right, all valid answers. Last question I have for you all is, do you all have any new ideas you'd like to share right here with everyone listening that you'd like to say as part of your campaign that you haven't already shared with the league? And it is Adam first.
Yeah, I would like to say nothing that I haven't said. I think I've outlined everything I want to do pretty well. But I do want to have first off a vote for changing to 9-cat league. That would be my first thing I would do. That and council votes, of course, but that's something that needs to be settled soon so that people can start draft preparing.
All right, Patrick.
Yeah, I'm sorry that doesn't sound like Adam really has any new ideas, but I couldn't expand on the side game I explained before. It's going to be a gambling side game, and my first thought process is splitting the divisions of risk takers and money makers or something like that, and actually creating this in its own separate app. I have some coding experience. I created the Battle Royale program when I needed to save the league during COVID. And I can see creating this gambling app so that everyone can pop in there, vote or gamble their fantasy money on fantasy actions and games playing and player performances that day, and see who can make up the most money by the end of the year.
All right, Matt.
Yeah. So new ideas. I mean, I've outlined everything that I had, but I do want to expand on an idea that I had posted about in chat. Survivor 2.0. I think that's probably the best side game we've ever done. Also the most intense. But I have put together a team and workshopped a way to make it totally proof of any type sort of like tomfoolery that would affect the game. We're going to have predetermined things, predetermined challenges that everyone knows about in advance. But in order to ensure that no one person knows what is coming up week by week to give them an unfair advantage, they will put on a spinning wheel, and each week one will get picked and be eliminated from the challenge pool. So it'll continue to be randomized week after week. There will be nothing like trade week. There will be nothing like that. It'll all be there. Most rebounds, total points. At the tribe stage, it'll just be which tribe wins more categories as we go out against each other. And I guess the other one that's kind of a rogue idea out there, a lot of people have talked about it. I think Ben actually may have been the first one to bring it to my attention. The conference draft, where the winners, and I want this to be a yearly tradition, the winners of each conference will then draft the conferences for the next year in a snake form with the regular season champ, deciding if they want first pick or second pick, and obviously second pick would mean getting back to back. I think you've just had a little strategy in something like Survivor with us shortening the season probably to help with everything. I think with something like Survivor, you'd be drafting mostly on Survivor and basketball since you're just playing everyone once. So
Yeah,
very much outside, not affecting the league and the functions. Very much for side game purposes and for fun, just to kind of mix things up, make it interesting, and I think it'd be really interesting to say the least.
yeah. I don't want to. I'm not against any type of side game. Both these candidates do have good ideas, and I would be willing to participate in them certainly, and I'd be willing to hear other ideas. And then as far as Matt's idea on the conference draft goes, I fully support that. I think that's a great way to make conferences actually matter a little bit more. You actually might have some pride if you're the captain of a conference and your team wins a Survivor challenge, if that's what we do, or of course the end of year game would be made very competitive if teams were balanced that way.
It also, I think, just gives people one more reason to push to win year after year, which I think is always good to have as many of those in as possible. People want to be that conference captain; they're going to work hard to get there.
All right, we have one follow-up question for Patrick's idea. It says, does Patrick have any real-world experience with planning/designing a mobile app, or how long it actually takes to build? Seems unrealistic given the time frame we have.
Yeah, for sure. I do have experience using Fiverr to hire people to do things for me, and that's most likely what I would do here. Now, I also have friends in coding, and this would be a pretty simple situation where it's just money in a purse and a gamble, and you get money back. And we want to see the leaderboards. If you win a week of fantasy, you get money in your purse. That's your way to really earn money besides the gambling. And I think it's just it'd be a holistic theme to bring this like Vegas or gambling idea to the league in every way this year.
Alrighty, I
If I
think
could just
that's
piggyback
all. Oh yeah, go
piggyback
for it.
off the gambling real quick. Me, Clifford, Johnny, and Nathan, and even Chase has participated once when he's in town. Have done like a poker night occasionally. So I forgot Clifford had brought this up a few weeks ago, but it'd be kind of cool for the people that when they're in town and stuff, maybe once a month we just kind of have a little poker night. Just want to throw that out there as a possibility. Get a couple, get enough people. We have a couple tables going, and I think that would help support Rick's idea that I think is a great idea of getting the Lou Area Fantasy Casino. I believe kind of what he's going for.
Yeah, and it could fit with the gambling theme too. We could even do some little online poker situations as a whole league at some point.
Yeah, I like that one. A follow up to the gambling and poker stuff. Someone asked, how would this affect those with a gambling addiction?
Look, they're gonna love it. It's gonna feed their addiction. It's what they need. They need it daily injected into their veins, and I'll give it to them.
To be clear, it's fantasy bucks, right? Only fantasy bucks.
Only fantasy bucks. In
And
fact,
there's
it
no
would be
cash
illegal.
prize at the end or anything.
No, I've toyed with the idea of like little kind of payouts at the end of the year party of some kind. But I don't know.
The same
Would take
person
a
just
while.
commented saying, if it's no cash, I'm good on that then.
Yeah, it's no cash.
So. All right. One other question from the audience. How do the candidates propose to fix quote unquote goonery? You can answer that how you want to interpret it. Adam.
Yeah, earlier in the AG debate, they interpreted goonery, I believe, as people being subservient and doing whatever one person tells them. I've I've been called a goon in the past. I don't think anyone would call me a goon right now. And personally, I don't believe goonery is real. I think everybody can think for themselves.
Okay, Patrick.
I'm not a goon theist like Adam is. I do believe that goons exist and are real in this league. It's something we have to watch out for. But and Adam at one point perhaps was a goon in a way. I remember originally when he had a little satellite on the back of his neck and just listened to everything Matt had. But what keeps people out of their goonery is empowering them to make their own decisions, form their own alliances outside of what they're used to.
Matt.
Yeah, I do just want to defend Adam here for a second. If there's one thing that has been consistent in the league is Adam has always been his own independent thinker. For sure, there's never been. I would never call Adam someone's goon.
Well,
However,
because
I do think
I would have to be your goon, and then you'd be accused of having goons.
Well, I don't think there's anything necessarily wrong with having a goon. I think the downfall would be being a goon. So, like, if you were my goon, I don't think that's a negative necessarily, but I don't think you ever were. I will say there's been a history of, Adam, maybe he doesn't want to admit to being a goon because there's been some trade issues, conundrums with the amount that him and Tamara have traded in the past. That's neither here nor there. Goonery is definitely a real thing. We see it all the time. I don't think it's ever really gone and caused major issues, though.
I don't think it's ever going to go away because we've got people in this league who are closer with each other, no matter what.
Right.
If that's the way you want to interpret it. Either way, I don't really think it's a major issue that would need to really do anything to stop.
Yeah, I think
We have
it's
another follow up question, getting a little spicier. For those of you that think goonery exists, name the goons in the league. Wait, let me see who goes first. Matt.
You're gonna make me do it. Okay.
You can decline to answer.
No, because I don't really think there's a huge no goonship has ever really caused any major issues that I would consider unfair. I do think that in the past there was definitely a Clifford goonship, but I would say that perhaps that has broken up and deteriorated. I definitely think that Chase and Johnny have a pretty strong connection, although I think they're pretty much on equal playing field, equal levels. I think that Sanders likes to work with Patrick quite a bit, but I think Sanders isn't so much Patrick's goon as he is just the best memes goon. That's how I would describe him, and I would throw Joel in there too. Whoever is the best meme, that's who's going to get Sanders and Joel. I don't know that I would call Ben or someone. I've called Duncan probably a goon to Clifford. I would say that. Unfortunately, my boy Duncan, still learning the ropes quite a bit, so he leans on his big brother quite a bit. So, but again, I don't think that's ever really been abused to any major extent. Um, it's not because it's become less of an issue over the past few years. I would say more people becoming independent as they get comfortable within the league setting.
Okay, Adam.
Question was directed at people who believe in goons. I don't believe goons exist. So
Perfect.
there are
All
no
right,
goons in this
Patrick.
league.
Look, I'm actually a bit offended by what Matt said. He just called over half the league goons. That's just straight offensive. I think people have some goon tendencies, but through and through, I don't think anyone in this league is a goon.
I think we're all big boys. We can all speak for ourselves. You know, I don't think anyone's beholden to anybody.
All right. Is another question, same idea. With the two new members having strong connections with some certain members, and some of the new members calling themselves a goon in their own interview, do you think that might become a problem in this season? Matt?
Yeah, I certainly think I wouldn't call it a problem. I certainly think if we do decide that we want to go the survivor route that I'm proposing, that we need to be vigilant and aware. But again, that's not going to affect fantasy. That is just going to be the roadmap of the game, if you will, the strategic layout, the chessboard that you're going to want to take into account. Yeah, let's put it out there. Michael called himself Nick's goon, basically. But did he understand the full intent of the word? Had he been in the league prior? No. Otherwise, clearly, he probably wouldn't have not admit to that. But Elijah seems like he's a pretty independent thinker. Again, like Duncan, he may lean on his brother's opinions or like Johnny's opinions, but would he sacrifice his own thought process to try and get something through that they wanted or help them out? No, I don't think so.
Okay, Adam, any concerns?
Any concerns? I mean, if you've got a goon in this league that you think's a goon, good for you. But I think, going into the season, should the new members make any ridiculous trades, that's what the system is in there for, is in place for. So I don't have any worries.
Patrick?
Yeah, I think we just have to add an extra layer of scrutiny to the sort of goon trades or goon interactions. Go into it with a bit more skepticism, maybe request some chat logs here and there. But otherwise, we keep a good eye on goons in this league, and there are people with their ear to the ground around the goons to really bring them out and bring them to light.
Alrighty. I think that's it. Does the audience have any other questions? You can just speak up if you want. Oh. Josh, you got something? You unmuted yourself.
No, I'm good.
Alright. Do the candidates have any questions for each other?
I would just like to ask, what is the first thing you all would like to do when you win LM? For both of you.
Yeah, I mentioned it earlier. The first thing I want to do is hold a vote on changing to 9-cat and get council elections through quickly. I think, we're not going to start the season as early as we did next year or have the draft as early as we did. So I don't know how urgent that will become, but that'd be the first thing I do day one.
Yeah, I think it's urgent day one to elect a new council or to get a new council in place. That's my day one goal. Then take the 9-cat issue from there and let the council take the 9-cat issue from there. It needs to be a legislative change in the rules because technically the point system is what's in the rules. I don't think if they want to decide to put it, the council wants to put it to league vote, that'll be their decision, but I'll oversee council making sure they handle it correctly.
Yeah, and I would say the same thing. The only other thing that I would add, well, actually, I do agree with Adam. I think I would push strongly that it should just be a league vote. I think the majority of the league wants it. Something that big needs to just go ahead and be a league vote just to decide it. Get the council elections going, and then officially announce, putting out there the date for the live draft as soon as possible. Because my past experience tells me that the sooner you can get a date out there, the better. So October 15th for the live draft, 4 days before the season starts. I know there's weekend before that is a little sketchy for some people. So that would be my proposal right off the bat, would be to get that out there.
Alright, if Matt's elected, put it on the calendar. Well, I think that's it then. Any closing statements for anybody?
So just thank you all for coming out and listening to this. I hope to have your consideration.
Yeah, I look forward to having the league decide who the best candidate for LM is. I hope if you have any other questions or concerns, please come contact me, talk with me or Tamara directly. We do have a lot of ideas on our mind and a lot to share. I look forward to bringing the league closer this year and our love for fantasy basketball.
Yep. I would just reiterate the same thing. I think the three candidates we got here are great, and no matter which way we go, the league's going to be in good hands. And I'm sure we will all, our passion and whatnot drives us to want the best for the league. So I'm sure if one of the other candidates wins, we can all agree that we'll be there to help them and support them however they need. And I'm available 24/7, so just let me know if you got any ideas. Thanks.
Beautiful.
Amazing.
Well done, boys.